days.
Why am I so short today?
Sonny, you have to give 1 minute.
No, I've been this one?
I think you know your business pretty darn well myself.
I said a few years ago we were thawing a bunch in the city, and it was when I was having a big fight with Bob Cole. And, they froze almost everything on Mackinac Island. They sent an airplane down, flew me to Mackinac Island for a week, and put me up there to teach them how to do it.
On Wednesdays, I am still, I've not been to the house since last Wednesday. I brought my own car tonight, yeah.
What are we waiting for, Sonny?
The second hand to get to 12.
Sorry.
I was talking and wasn't paying attention. I gave Mike the 1 minute in the morning. If we can get settled in here, we'll get started with the February meeting of the Grand Traverse County Ways and Means Committee. I would start with the opening ceremonies. If you'll all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Lana, will you call the roll, please?
Inman?
Here.
Lathrop's excused. Lemkool?
Here.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Rennie?
Here.
Thomas?
Yep.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am. This brings us to the approval of the minutes of the January 22nd regular session of the Ways and Means Committee. Motion by Thomas, supported by Rennie to approve. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. This brings us to the first opportunity for public comment. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment at this time? Seeing none, we will dispense with reading the rules for public comment and move forward with the approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting. Are there any items to be added, Mr. Benda?
Check my...
We have to make an appointment to the bond proposal for the YMCA.
It's on here, isn't it?
It's on the
And I
agenda.
don't have any additions, I just have a handout
That's
for
the
that.
bond proposal, but this, we have to appoint 2 people to that board.
Well, that we can
Is
do
that part
It's
of it?
all part of the
Okay, good.
discussion as the
Okay.
agenda item. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as provided.
So move.
Motion by Rennie, supported by
Sure.
Thomas. Further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. This brings us to the consent calendar. If you would, please, Lynn.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file or approval, is approved by a single committee action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file, none. B, approval. 1, amendment to Michigan State Housing Development Authority, or MISTA, grant, 3-month extension for immediate approval. 2, renewal of contract with Land Information Access Association, LIAA, for immediate approval.
Having heard the consent calendar, is there any item that the public wish to have removed? Any member of the commissioners wish to remove? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So move.
Motion by Rennie, supported by Thomas. Roll call vote, please.
Lemkool.
Yes.
Max Bauer.
Yes.
Rennie.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yep.
Inman.
Yes.
Wheelock.
Yes, ma'am. Because of the fact that these were roll call votes, we can make immediate action.
That was the motion.
Approval.
That was the motion.
Okay. All right, we have no special order of business, nothing removed from the consent calendar. That brings us to the EDC. transferring of the EDC revolving loan funds. Jean, would you please?
As identified, this item is relative to the transferring of the EDC revolving loan funds to the Chamber of Commerce Foundation Board. And this is...
Who are you?
Who am I?
The general public.
I have a lot of that question.
Who am I?
I'm Jean Dorenzi. I'm the Deputy Director of the Grand Traverse County Planning and Development Department.
Everybody knows that.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I want to go over the issue itself. Hopefully I've provided enough information in your packet, but for the public and to hopefully answer any questions you may have. This has been quite a long process on transferring the revolving loan fund. This started in 2010 when the Michigan Economic Development Corporation notified the county that we needed to transfer the revolving loan funds to a certified community development financial institution, or a CDFI, to be able to utilize the RLF. It's since that time, since the state has been trying to figure out how to transfer the funds, we have not been able to utilize the revolving loan fund. The EDC has been working since 2010 on how to implement this strategically, and we've been working with the Chamber Foundation Board in connection with Northern Initiative, who is a certified CDFI, to work with the state and be able to transfer the funds to them. The Chamber Foundation Board was awarded MEDC that designation to be able to transfer the funds. There was a little bit of a hiccup in this in August of 2013, which we were in front of you, and the state came back and said the local government could also be the loaner of choice as well. So the EDC, we really just wanted to step back and make sure that the community goals and how the state is looking at the regionalization and the governor's prosperity plan really match each other. And the EDC, and I also, if I can step back also, I wanted to identify within the audience today, do have representatives of the Chamber Foundation Board with Laura Galbraith, Steve Rawlings, and Scott Harvey as well. And
All right.
we're ready to utilize these funds. The EDC board has identified that it does meet the governor's prosperity plan in looking at these funds on a regional basis, and it gets into a marketing ability to make sure that the business community realizes that these GAP funds are there and available, and works to improve our tax base, our job growth, and to retain our tax base as well. So you have in your packet the sub-recipient agreement between the Grand Traverse County and the Chamber Foundation Board, and the EDC is recommending that we approve that and also appoint the county administrator to the loan review committee or his or her designee that will review all new loans that'll come before the Chamber Foundation Board. And how the loan will work is we will transfer the loan portfolio that we have, the loan available funds, which is $1.4 million, to the Chamber Foundation. The portfolio that we have, which is the outstanding loans, will remain with Grand Traverse County. And when those loans are paid back, those funds would then be transferred to the Chamber Foundation as well. So we anticipate that our last loan would be paid off in 2021. There's no penalty for early payment, but if that happens, our last loan would be 2021. The Chamber Foundation, just a minute, Herb. The Chamber Foundation, when they get the 1.4 and loan the dollars out, when the repayments are made to the Chamber Foundation, then those are no longer have the HUD requirements, so the county will no longer have to hold public hearings or be part of the environmental review process. And it makes it a little bit easier for them to really regionalize the funds and have a little bit more flexibility with the funds than what we will ever have on implementing them on a government basis.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the subrecipient agreement between Grand Traverse County and the Traverse City Chamber Foundation. Further, that the resolution authorizing transfer and authorizing chairman of the county board to sign the agreement.
Second.
Motion by Limco, supported by Inman. Further discussion.
I'd just like to make a comment that we saw a presentation about the work that the Chamber Foundation is doing in the loan programs. They have like, I think, 5 different programs now that they use, and they are working with the local banks. They're not acting as a bank. This is a collaborative way to be able to put these funds back into our community to provide jobs and be able to help businesses succeed.
Gene, what is our outstanding loan amount now? About,
How much do we have available to transfer?
no, how much do we have out that's loaned out
It
now?
needs to be repaid.
About $1 million?
It's about 1.2?
No, it's less than that. It's
Is it
about
less?
505,000.
About $500,000 that we have out, that's outstanding right now.
Correct.
You know, I guess my only comment for this is that, you know, I thought we were doing a pretty good job of handling this money on our own without the state having to come in and tell us that we needed to regionalize it. You know, I asked the prosecutor, the assistant prosecutor, if we were okay for form with this, and he says it's okay, you know, so I will support this, but I truly believe that we as a county, we're doing a good job of making these funds available for the betterment of our community without the state telling us that we weren't doing it right.
Oh.
Herb?
But I will tell you that you appointed me to the Economic Development Corporation, and for the last 4 years, no money has gone out, even during our economic downturn, that businesses were not coming here because they didn't want to vet their financials before the public. And so that stopped the loaning, and so therefore, this will give that opportunity for that money to get out into the community. That, to me, was the biggest surprise that I found, is that we got money sitting there, and it wasn't being loaned in a time when we were in an economic downturn, and that was wrong.
But I will
So-
say, Herb, is that we couldn't loan it out.
Well, that was also
And-
part of it.
And it's
Yeah.
better to go to the Chamber Foundation, but
Yep.
the state tied our hands. So
So,
Further discussion? Charlie?
Yeah, I've been going to a couple seminars and so forth. I've followed this Governor's Prosperity Initiative and so forth. And I understand people want to keep it in our county. But I think the regional approach, we have much to gain from that approach, as a county even. We are the kind of the center of this region. And I'm not saying the state should be telling us how to spend the money or whatever, but I do think we should look more bigger, more collaboration between our sister counties and so forth. I think it could help all of us.
Well, I don't think we ever denied doing that, though. We approved a loan to a company in Elk Rapids a few years ago, which I don't believe ever came to fruition.
I think that's one that's not paid back.
correct.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed?
This is for immediate approval.
Immediate approval. We better roll call vote this. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Please, Lana.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Rennie?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yep.
Inman?
Yes.
Limcool?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, that takes care of that one, and the second one
Thank you.
is also from the EDC in regard to the YMCA revenue bond issue. Would you like to explain that, Jean?
Yes, I will give a very broad overview of the EDC bond issue. I think this is the first bond issue, revenue bond, that some of the commissioners have been involved in, so I'll give an overview. Roger Sweats with Dickinson Wright and our EDC Bond Counsel is here, and he can give a more broad, in-depth review of the bond issue itself and the process that is followed. As reported at your previous meetings, the YMCA notified the EDC in June of 2013 that they would be seeking an EDC revenue bond. And now they have come and said that they're ready to issue the revenue bond and for consideration. And basically, what a revenue bond is, it does not require the county's full faith and credit. It does not go against our debt limit, and it does not have any financial reporting requirements for Grand Traverse County. The the EDC bond issue, EDC has been in Grand Traverse County since 1978, and it's a financial tool for industrial uses or nonprofits. And and it's for revenue bonds, which would be tax exempt. A bank would buy the bonds, and the lender or the borrower would then pay the bond payments to the bank. So there's no involvement of Grand Traverse County. It just has a financial opportunity to be able to infuse some private investment into our community. The YMCA is a nonprofit. It is a community that will provide our citizenry with a new health and wellness center. The bond issue is for $4 million, with Traverse City State Bank being the purchaser of the bonds. And the EDC met on February 7th and approved the first resolution, being the resolution to proceed under the EDC Financing Act of 1974. And then after that is the resolution that's in your packet, which identifies the project area and is recommending that 2 additional board members be appointed to the EDC board solely for the EDC bond issue for the YMCA. Chairman Lemkool provided some names. I reached out to those names, and I have 2 members of the public that are in the project area, one in the neighborhood being Junior Van Dyke, and the other being the executive director of the Surgery Center for the business community in that area of Luann Vanderleest, who have agreed to be appointed to the EDC for this bond issue. Roger, if you'd like to kind of go through the bond issue itself and the process. If you have any questions, Roger can answer those for you.
Thanks, Jean. As Jean mentioned, my name is Roger Sweats, and it's been my privilege to be able to work with the EDC for a number of years now on these type of issues. The kind of revenue bonds that we're looking at issuing for the YMCA here are kind of the core function that the EDCs were originally created to handle here in Michigan. Because of some law changes, there are many fewer issues that are done these days. Many of the commercial issues can't be done because of some federal tax law changes. Industrial issues are just less frequent because of some other tax law changes. But for 501c3 organizations, this is a very nice way for them to be able to obtain a tax-exempt interest rate to finance new infrastructure projects that they have. And under federal law, that tax-exempt interest rate is only available to them if the bonds are issued through a governmental issuer. And hence the reason why EDCs were created in Michigan and why they're coming to you with this request at this point in time. As Jean mentioned, the loan would be for about $4 million out of a roughly $14 million project right now. So they have raised a lot of money on their own to pay the bulk of this cost. And to give you an idea of the benefit to the YMCA for the county lending them this issuing ability, it will save them a little over a full interest point on their interest rate with Traverse City State Bank, with that rate being reduced from 3.95% down to roughly 2.875%, give or take a little bit depending on where interest rates go by the time we close. So it is a big benefit to the YMCA. This is a way that the EDC can support nonprofits in the community, and there have been a number of projects built with this assistance over the years. A key point that Jean mentioned is that these the county does not have any liability for the bonds that are being issued here. The EDC will be acting as a pass-through entity in order to lend that public issuing status, but all of the responsibility for the payment of the bonds will be with the YMCA. These bonds will not count against the county's debt limits. The county nor the EDC will have any responsibility to pay the debt service. So if there's a shortfall, that would just be a default of the YMCA in the relationship that's set up with Traverse City State Bank. As far as the process moving forward, as Jean mentioned, there would be 2 special directors appointed by this resolution that you have in front of you, if that is in fact adopted by the County Board of Commissioners. They will serve just with respect to this project. It's a statutory avenue to try and bring in some public input to the project to make sure that projects that might be of concern to the broader community get some extra input. And so when those directors are appointed, the EDC will meet and review and approve a project plan for the project that covers the basic details of the project. The project will then come back to the County Board of Commissioners for a public hearing that's required under both state and federal law, again, to allow any input should there be any concern in the community about the project. And then the county board, if it felt it was a good project to proceed with, would adopt an approving resolution at that time. And then finally, the project would have a bond resolution adopted by the EDC after that point, and then we'd move on to close the bond issue. What the county board is being asked to consider in this resolution is designating the project area and the project district area for the project. This is an area that's been approved by the EDC and is being recommended to the county board. That area is the legal description of the YMCA site. It's customary in these issues now to keep that area fairly narrow so that these projects can be fairly efficient and move forward fairly quickly. Would that area be much broader, there's a much more involved process that we have to go through, which we generally don't use unless there's more, it's more of a controversial project. And then secondly, the resolution appoints or approves the appointment by the chair of the 2 additional board members so that the EDC can move forward with the project. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions from anyone? Can you give me an idea approximately what the savings to the YMCA will be in that the county does this bond issue on their behalf?
I don't have the total dollar cost savings on the interest rate, but the savings is the difference of a little bit over 1 percentage point on the $4 million for the and it'll be a 20-year bond issue. So it
is a significant.
It'll be very significant, yeah.
Huge savings, yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution approving the project area, establish the project district area, and confirming the appointment of Luann Van Fleet and Junior Van Dyke as the additional board directors for the issuer.
Second.
Motion by Lemkool, supported by Inman. Further discussion?
This is for immediate approval?
Yes. Roll call vote, please, Lana.
Runny,
Yes.
Thomas.
Yep.
Inman,
Yes.
Lemkool,
Yes.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Wheelock.
Yes. I think this is another example where Grand Traverse County is out front helping our community to develop programs and build businesses that serve our community as a whole. You know, I remember a few years ago when we sold the bond issues to build a new emergency room at Munson Hospital. You know, it was a significant savings to them. And this, again, is a significant savings to the development for the betterment of our community.
Great point.
Okay, that brings us to Human Resources. Jen? Gene, did you have anything else, or are we good? Thank you all for coming. You're welcome to stay. You know, we're going to stay. You can stay too if you want.
Thank you.
We're not trying to rush you off. Thanks.
Thanks, Steve.
Jen Seaman, Human Resources Director. In front of you is actually regarding commissioner compensation for the next, I should say, election cycle for next year. And we did send out a survey, which is included in your packet, and all of the information that we received, not only on salary, but benefits as well from those counties. And a summary is provided in the agenda item for your review. And I guess I will leave it at that, because I'm sure you guys have comments.
Okay, where would we like to start?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to eliminate retirement as compensation for commissioners as part of the package for the next term.
To eliminate all retirement?
The defined contribution retirement plan with 3% contribution from the commissioner and a 9% contribution from the county. I'm moving to eliminate that particular item from the next commissioner's package.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second to that motion? Seeing none, motion dies for second. Is there any other discussion? Larry?
Well, thank you, Jen, for taking the time and effort in doing the study with counties within our population size and getting us the number of commissioners and their full compensation benefit. It was an interesting survey to me to see that a lot of the counties that are in our, especially the ones that we surveyed in the previous 2 years, happened to move up their compensation level somewhat, and it's interesting to note that the boards that don't pay per diem have a higher salary, and have combined those together as an average, but I solely believe that the Board of Commissioners here in Grand Traverse are undercompensated. And we haven't given ourselves a raise since 2001. We've decreased our compensation package for insurance for spouse and family during the last term and this term. So I think we've done our part. Unfortunately, it's hard for me to, at this stage, even though this board, or excuse me, the previous board had made a commitment, the previous board before that, to set compensation before the filing deadline for county commissioners, which I think we should do, but we have not yet resolved our budget for the 2015 year. And with a lot of unknowns and potential shortfalls, even though we dearly deserve to be moved up along with our peers in terms of compensation, salary, and I think we're right at the point of appropriate benefit levels. I just find it hard for us to move forward with compensation increases when we're facing some potential shortfalls that we've got to make some decisions on, and we don't have all the information in front of us yet to know the impact on that. So given we've got to make this decision before the filing deadline in April, I guess I would make a motion that we continue the same compensation level, the salary and the same compensation level for commissioners as we have for the 2013 and 14 year for the 2015-2016 county commissioner election cycle.
I'll support that.
Have a motion supported by Inman. Discussion. Herb?
Yeah, I can't really be in favor of that. I really think that we need to combine our per diems, our health insurance, and our compensation so that it's all in one package. And my proposal would be that we look at $16,000 compensation for a commissioner, $17,000 for vice chairman, $18,000 for chairman. And that would, so if a commissioner decided they wanted to purchase health insurance, it would come out of that. If they decide not to have health insurance, they do not get the additional $2,000 additional for not taking compensation. It's already built into that. So that way we don't have to continue doing per diems. We don't have to worry about the paperwork, but we're going to be continually committed to being able to be servants of the people of our community. I will tell you that that's probably a reduction in pay. I know my pay this last year, including health insurance, was about $20,000. So I'm using this as a guideline to be able to get us into it, but I also would recommend that if we ever give increases to any elected officials, that commissioners elected would be considered elected officials and would receive the same increase in pay. That's where I'd like to be able for us to go, rather than trying to keep the same. Because I think this has been confusing to some degree for doing per diems. And I think that also it's not fair when you have some people taking health insurance and others not. So this equalize compensation out for all commissioners.
Okay.
Well, I agree up to a point, Herb. And where I disagree is the elimination of per diem does one thing. It makes it so nobody has to go to a meeting. So you pay them and they say, all right, we don't show up because there's nothing that says you've got to come to a meeting. And I think that's a step in the wrong direction.
The people in the election will be able to make sure that they're going to be going to those meetings. You get somebody that's not going to the meetings, they're not going to re-elect them.
Well, that might be, but they're gonna be there for 2 years.
Well,
Charlie?
I would kind of go along with Herb on this. First of all, not all commissioners have the same workload. And I think the analysis of the per diem thing showed that. So to just flat blanket cover everybody that way, I don't know if that's fair unless you're going to look at how you put people on their committee assignments. To be quite honest with you, we have so many committee assignments and meetings every month, it is ridiculous. Myself, I'm 18, 20 meetings a month. Okay, that's a whole lot different than a guy who's got a district with 1 local unit. I have 6 local units. So there has to be some way to shake that out as well, in my opinion. So I would not support the motion.
Okay. Chris, did you have a comment?
No?
Just to be clear, my motion on the floor that was seconded would include, you get per diems for the meetings that you attend.
I understand.
All right, okay.
Thank you for that
Oh,
clarification.
actually, I do have,
Okay.
I do have a comment.
Okay. Chris, go ahead.
Thank you. I think that commissioners need to be paid for the work they do. And y'all are going to disagree with me. I think the salary ought to be $1 a year, and the per diems ought to be upped. I think there's a huge benefit to going to meetings and being a liaison between township officials and city elected officials. City elected officials, staff. I mean, the amount of information that goes back and forth through commissioners, I think, needs to be encouraged. So I'm kind of at the opposite end of the spectrum.
Dave?
Well, I worked in Ingham County for about 11 years, and they had eliminated per diems by the time I started there in 1983, so they've been without per diems for years and years. But what they did was they built into their board rules requirements for commissioners to do things. And this salary includes, you will do this, you will do that, you will attend so many meetings. If you skip, meetings and you miss 3 meetings, there are punishments involved. I mean, it's, so your board rules have to be amended to take into account that, there are certain functions of government that have to keep going, and, so I just throw that out as that's how that's handled in counties that have done that.
Dick, you had something?
Yeah, no matter how this comes out, and I'm not sure this motion is the correct one, we're looking for $1 million to save in the budget. And while we're looking for that $1 million, the worst thing we can do is take a raise, because that's going to ruin the morale in the county, and it's the wrong thing to do. I'll never vote for anything that's an increase, even though I think that we probably are underpaid. But I'll never go along with an increase at this point in time. So whatever way you want to come out, at least this motion keeps everything the same.
Charlie?
Maybe we can come up with something else.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'd like to know what a commissioner is exactly, what does he actually or her have to do? What meetings do you have to show up? I've never seen that breakdown. What is our fiduciary responsibility to,
when the chairman assigns you to those committees, that's your responsibilities.
But the state statute does not require you to go to
That's
any.
right. That's true. But you can do board
Statutorily,
rules.
You have no responsibility to attend anything.
That's right.
Right.
Unfortunately, I'd like to back up to the 2 years when I made the recommendation and we cost neutral and take the salaries that were paid to the 9 commissioners that were seated in this chair 2 years ago and divide that amongst the 7 commissioners that are seated here now. Because the workload hasn't gotten smaller. When the apportionment board decided to go from 9 county commissioners to 7, the workload did not get any smaller. So what the taxpayers were paying commissioners 2 years ago to do this job for was $63,000. Now they're paying the same 7 of us $40,000. So there's a significant thing. As far as the per diem thing, we can have all kinds of discussions about per diems, and I attend an awful lot of stuff that I don't put on my per diem sheet. I probably have one of the lowest per diem sheets sitting in this board. But, if it's not something where I feel I'm meeting with someone that I'm helping to make a decision or something with that, if it's just education for my purpose, I don't put it down, you know, but that's the way I did it, that's my choice, I would have the opportunity to put it down. I find it interesting, I seen a letter recently where someone had identified that I had charged a per diem that they didn't figure I should have charged. And in my case, that particular per diem was for the groundbreaking at the depot project. For everyone's information, the reason I was at the depot project and was there for the groundbreaking is I was the first keynote speaker. I represented your land bank authority and your affordable housing task force at the groundbreaking ceremony. And for someone to question whether or not I should have put that on my per diem sheet is a little bit insulting along the way. I would believe that commissioners are honest in what they put down on their per diem sheet, and it just frustrates me that anyone would even question that, you know. And so I have no problem with the idea of leaving a per diem program in place, but I do believe 14 years without any raise in compensation is an absurd amount of money. We could raise this from $7,000 to $9,000. It would be absolutely would be less than cost neutral of where we were 2 years ago, because we have 2 less commissioners collecting per diems. I will not support the motion as it is drafted. Charlie?
As we get into this, I would like a list, actually, if going forward, as to what exactly qualifies for a per diem if we go that way. We hear this stuff after the fact. I mean, if we heard it while it was going on, obviously we wouldn't put something down we didn't think qualified. But we have an audit committee. I saw the letters, whatever it is. The way I look at it, the audit committee wasn't doing their homework for a year. And I just don't see the purpose of that. And why would you bring it up now? I agree with Sonny 100% on that. And I do not feel commissioners are in any way overpaid. And I don't think commissioners should be nitpicked on a per diem. That's my opinion.
Further discussion?
Could we repeat the motion?
The motion is to retain the salary of the commissioners at $7,000 a year for commissioners, $7,500 for the vice chairman, $8,000 for the chairman, per diems at $35 per meeting with a maximum of $90 per day. All-day conferences are at $70.
And you gotta go through the benefits.
Health insurance is available with a 10% premium share paid by the commissioner for single coverage. Additional spouse and family coverages are available at purchase cost, 100% paid by the commissioner. Commissioner has the right to opt out of health insurance for $2,000.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And the retirement is also available for retirement and dental.
Defined contribution retirement plan with 3% contribution from the commissioner and 9% from the county.
Okay.
This is the existing payment structure. Charlie?
As far as the defined contribution for our retirement, I believe we made a different agreement with some of our employees. Is it not now 6%?
Well, actually, it
6
applies
cents,
to
3 cents?
commissioners as well.
Yeah.
Oh, that has
will
already
be-
applied?
Yeah, we changed
Well,
it.
right now, for existing employees, it's still 9 and 3.
Yes.
But for new hires,
I
after the
think-
next election, if new hires come in, which
I'd
we're
feel more
assuming they are,
comfortable if we
it'll
shave
be
that
6 and
back.
3.
Well, we can be consistent.
Yeah, I
is
would
all
like
I'm
to
saying.
amend my motion to reflect the lower amount that we currently have for new employees for the match on the 401K. Does the second agree with that?
Can you do that with current employees?
No, I'm just saying, the compensation for commissioners in 015.
He's talking about
016.
next year.
Yeah, but I don't.
But you have some that are already currently in commissioners and they stay on, can you reduce their compensation by
Sure.
that?
Yeah, after the next election cycle.
Okay.
After the next election cycle. So what are we doing now, right now for?
We have
staff?
to think about that,
I think we have
because
to,
it's a plan document, and
I don't know if you can.
I don't think you can.
I don't think you can change somewhat. I will have to check on that for you. But I'm pretty sure once you're in the plan, and I don't think you can go down to 6.
Oh, I see what you mean.
I
Yeah,
use
you're the
Herb as an
Once you're in the plan,
example.
you're in the plan. You're in the group plan. So I take the amendment off the floor.
You're in violation of
Yeah.
Internal Revenue
Yeah, they're
Service
true. That's true.
requirements.
You
that
can't
you're-
change that.
But new commissioners would
It's
be.
already going to be.
Yeah,
It will happen for new.
yeah, new commissioners, yes.
Dean, would
New
you like to repeat that just so everyone could hear it?
Well, because there's a formal plan document, you have to follow the rules, and one of the rules are that when you become a member of that retirement plan, you can't change. You make a decision, and that's what runs forward. Now, with new hires coming in, because we've in effect adopted another plan, it's a different story. But
It is a one-time
it's a
irrevocable
one-time
decision.
irrevocable election.
When you're
And
hired.
I'm not aware of any way
So-
that you can change that for a current employee. If
Okay.
Dave knows
I
of
don't know.
something different.
I would like to maintain our
We can
current
negotiate
payment
that
structure for
going
the commission.
forward.
Yeah, well,
Given we haven't had a raise, I think it's only fair.
For new
well.
people, for new
You
commissioners.
could do it for existing people, too.
I'm fine with the current motion on the floor.
Could you repeat the motion again, somebody?
Sonny just
Oh, no.
read the
Sonny just read
whole thing.
Do it again.
I can do it again. Okay.
It's the, right
Yeah,
here,
if
right?
It's in
you
your
look-
packet,
If you look at page
Sorry.
26 in your packet, it is outlines. This is the current summaries which are asked to be left in place. Commissioner salary, $7,000. Vice chairman, $7,500. Chairman, $8,000. Per diem,
Keep going.
$35
Keep
per
going.
meeting with a maximum of $90 per day. All-day conference per diem is $70. No per diem for regular month-end board meetings. Health insurance is available at 10% premium share to be paid by commissioners for single coverage. Additional spouse and family coverages is available at purchase, paid 100% by the commissioner. Commissioners who opt out of health insurance are eligible for a $2,000 annual stipend. Dental, vision, and vision insurance are available for commissioners and eligible family members, paid by the county. The county is self-insured vision coverage plan for eyeglasses and contact lenses. Life insurance is to be provided by the county with a minimum of $20,000 coverage. Defined contribution retirement plan with 3% contribution from the commissioner and a 9% contribution for the county. Mileage reimbursement for the county-related meetings other than the month-end board meeting. And that is at the IRS rate as approved annually. Any further discussion on the motion? Roll call vote, please.
Thomas.
Yes.
Inman.
Yes.
Lemkool.
No.
Max Bauer.
Yes.
Rennie.
No.
Wheelock.
No. Motion fails.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that the compensation be $16,000 for commissioners, $17,000 for vice chairman, $18,000 for chairman, and that will include health insurance and per diems.
We have a
What about
motion on the
retirement
floor. Do we have a
bonus,
second?
It includes, in other words, you're doing away with per diem.
Doing away with per diems.
What about retirement, dental, everything else?
You're still going to be eligible for whatever retirements are going to be there.
So it's a current compensation benefit.
Mhm.
The only thing you're changing is the per diem and adding it to the salary,
Per diem and health insurance.
and health insurance.
What about dental and vision?
That stays the same.
Stays the same.
So it's, give me that again, 16?
16 for commissioners, 17 for vice chairman, 18 for chairman, which would include the purchase of health insurance for the single or family, if they want to buy the whole family out of that, and the per diems.
But they are responsible to pay 100% of their health insurance costs out of that.
Out of that fund, out of that compensation.
What about mileage? Mileage stays the same?
Mileage stays the same. Everything else is the same, other than the per diem and the health insurance and the compensation.
I would say
And what?
probably on average. Yeah, about the same.
Actually, it's a reduction.
I have a motion, do I have support? Hearing none, motion fails.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion, we table this until we have full commissions.
No, still second, that was
Yeah,
it.
I was going to support that song, that one.
Do you have support on that one?
Okay, we have a motion that we table the issue of commissioners' compensation until a meeting when all 7 commissioners are present.
Great idea.
Do you want to add it to our
Dr. Dan.
Board of Commissioners
Yeah.
meeting next week?
Sure.
I'm not sure Dan's going to be back.
I have a water safety instruction
and
class
Chris
that
won't be here,
starts
so
at 6
it'll be
o'clock.
The first
I'm learning
meeting.
how to teach swimming again. I've taken the
So-
course and, yeah.
Public safety.
I want to do volunteer work
Yeah.
to teach
So,
underprivileged
Okay.
children.
All right, so we're going to move this to a later meeting, and we will notify you when it will be on the agenda. It probably will not be at next week's Board of Commissioners meeting.
I will be at the budget meeting next week. My class doesn't start till 6 if you want, oh, we can't, never mind.
Roll
Never
call
mind.
vote, please, Lena.
Sorry,
Lemkool,
yes.
Max Bauer,
yes.
Rennie,
Yeah.
Thomas,
Yep.
Inman,
Yes.
Wheelock.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so.
Can
that
I
will
ask a
be-
question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Is it possible for us to get a review of the past 2 years commissioner compensation totaled
For Grand Traverse County Commissioners?
for Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners? So that we
Yeah,
know,
we
you know,
can do that. You
is my
received-
proposal higher or lower? You know, that gives us that we can start looking at an average?
I can provide the last 2 years, and I'll also give you the cost of the health insurance for single, double,
Right.
and family, so you know what that is.
Okay.
She's single.
Just
And
single
then-
is all you need.
Just single, because we didn't pay, the county did not pay.
You just got to.
Right, no, but I'm saying, so if Herb's motion, if anybody has double health insurance, they could have figured out from Herb's motion what their actual salary would have been.
So,
You see what I mean? I'll provide you with some more
okay,
information.
appreciate
You
that.
just have to.
Just let me know if there's anything else. And then I do need to give credit to Arlene. Arlene actually worked on this, not me. And so I wanted to make sure I gave credit to her for
Thank you.
preparing this very quickly.
I think the only thing you have to exclude is the retirement.
Yeah.
Your retirement.
Yeah, mine, definitely. 'Cause mine's still skewed. So,
You think?
yeah. Because they've
Yep.
taken all.
No problem.
But you're
Moving
stuck.
forward. Right.
Yeah.
No
Okay,
problem.
moving
It's not a real
forward.
number.
So I'm just looking at compensation for base pay,
You're looking
health
at
insurance,
salaries,
and per diems. Those are the only 3 things you have to really look at, according to my promotion. If
Salary,
you want
per
more
diem.
than that information, I don't care.
What did you want? Healthcare, salary?
Healthcare, salary, and per
salary, and per
diems,
diem.
just
Yeah,
the
that'd be only
average.
3 right there.
Those are the only 3.
Okay,
Thank you, Jen
thank you,
and
Jen. I
Arlene.
appreciate the information you did provide for us. It, you know, it actually pretty much tells us what we already knew, but, you know, at least it gives us documentation to know that, so. Brings us to Finance Department. Dean?
Excuse me for just a second.
Thank you. Cindy is going to load some information. We are very close to having the 2013 fiscal year closed. The fact is, I plan on doing a preliminary close tomorrow. We've got a couple of funds that have kind of held things up this year. The general fund always takes probably the most time to close. It's your largest operating fund. And then we've had some challenges with our health fund this year concerning the Medicaid cost settlement. I had Cindy come because I'm not the most technical person, especially when it comes to computer equipment. So I want to introduce Cindy Green. She's an accounting technician in my office. I have a very, very dedicated staff. They make me look good. They do all the work, you know, I just go to meetings, so. But
Don't shortchange yourself, Dean.
He does everything with a fine point mechanical
Well,
pencil, if you haven't noticed.
As Jen mentioned, we all have very good staffs behind us, but Cindy put this together. It's easy for me to give instruction and ask my staff to do things because they always come through for me. And she worked on this today while I was in the meeting, and we were making some of the last adjustments today. But I did, because of the fact that you're going through the budget process, you're reviewing the budgets, I wanted to give you a preliminary look on where we're at with our general fund, and that's what we have here. This is for the general fund. It's probably not as, well, yeah, it's not very easy to see, but I will provide well, a document that you can have, and this is not in our normal format. I guess I thought this would show up a lot better. But to make a long story short, what we did here was we listed by department in the general fund what the budgeted revenues were compared then to the actual revenues, which are the middle column, and then we're showing a variance in the final column. And because this doesn't show very well, Cindy, go ahead and go all the way down to the bottom. We're having a very good close. This hopefully is something that's a little easier to see. And again, this is just the general fund. These numbers are fairly accurate at this point. And the reason I say fairly accurate, until we know or get past the December Board of Reviews, it's almost impossible to determine what ultimately the tax revenue is based on the levy. And of course, there were some unique things that happened this year with the veterans exemption that no one really anticipated. I think that was signed into law in November. Not sure the exact date, but what we have here is the total then, and we had a budget that was $37,780,412. That's an amended budget, and again, this is for the general fund. Tomorrow we'll send this information to you so that you have it. We'll email that out. The revenues include, the budgeted revenue includes the $625,000 in fund balance that was built into the 2013 budget. And you can see that we were within about $475,000 of hitting that, taking into consideration that the budgeted revenue included fund balance. If you took the fund balance out, you'd see your actual revenue was over by $150,000, which was, that's a positive variance. And even though both of the variances are bracketed, if you focus just on the center, the middle column, revenues were $37.3 million and expenditures are $36.5. We're going to add over $700,000 to the fund balance in the general fund. So when you consider the budget plan that the board adopted was to use $625,000, adding $700,000 to it is a very positive variance. If you recall, if you ask, well, how did this happen? Well, it doesn't just happen. This is the point in time every year, those of the commissioners that have been on the board for quite a while, and I think Dave has heard this at least once from me, all of your departments and your elected officials and all county employees have a hand in this. In my opinion, they all do a very good job of managing their budgets over the course of the year. And if they don't, they're going to hear from either myself or from Dave or someone in my office saying, hey, what's going on here? Monthly, we try to report to you at least the highlights or the variances that we're seeing in the general fund. And I think all year long I reported basically that I wasn't seeing anything that was causing me any major concern. And that's reflective here and the numbers that are here. There are some estimates that are used in coming up with the final revenue numbers. The expenditures are fairly, they're the easiest part of this equation to get a handle on. We hold the books open for basically 31 days to capture all of the bills that are outstanding. The two the check runs, when the audit committee comes in January, they're primarily reviewing and approving 2013 expenditures against not only the general fund, but all of the other funds. So we're really trying to capture all of those expenditures, and that's why it's next to impossible for me to tell you in December where we're going to be. We don't have a centralized purchasing function, so I don't necessarily know what some of the departments might have outstanding in terms of, these invoices haven't been turned in for payment, but we really do get on the departments to make sure that they have those bills to us in January. And so, we're a little later here in the closing process. than we like to be. It's already February 19th. But I thought it was very beneficial for you to have this information. This is your major fund. It's a very positive results for your 2013 fiscal year. Obviously, the auditors will come in 2 months, and they'll, they review all of the work that we do. They do from time to time make some adjustments, but working with, the departments and the treasurer, we feel we have a pretty good handle on where we're going to end the year. And keep in mind that we're generally very conservative. We did make a few budget adjustments at the end of the year to cover some additional transfers that were made. We needed to put some additional money in the circuit court because of the increased activity that they were seeing. We had to make the additional appropriation to our insurance fund because of the litigation that we were dealing with that was, resulted in a trial that was actually settled, which we know where that's at currently. But despite those additional appropriations that were covered within this current budget, you're still adding to your fund balance, which is a very, very good thing. Even though you can't see it, on the revenue side, the revenues in most of the court activities, from circuit court, district court, probate court, family court, in the county clerk, all revenues, the performance or the results were better than what we budgeted. There were a lot of favorable revenue amounts compared to budget. So basically revenues were greater than what we budgeted. There are, in the cases, and you'll see this in the document that we'll send you tomorrow, but there were cases where we came in under budget. Those are primarily due to lower indirect cost revenues. It's hard to see that up on the screen, but as important as those additional revenues are to this close in our general fund, when you look at the expenditure side of this financial picture, all of the departments came in under budget, which again, I have to give them a lot of credit. They know that the board gives them an appropriation amount and a line item budget, and the audit committee, with the exception of the 2 check runs or claims runs that you get in January, we're making budget adjustments. We require them to have those if they're going to use funds that are in one line item to cover something that maybe they didn't plan on or that causes a budget line item to go over. They're covering that so that they know that they've got to give something else up. And for the 24 years that I've been here, I think even though that's a lot of work, that's the one thing that's kept us, in my opinion, from having, it helps us end the year within budget and live within in the budget. So we did not, when you look at the components of the budget, the fund balance was pretty much not used because of the unexpended personnel costs. You budget for full employment. I think when we looked at that, Cindy, we were pretty close to the $625,000 in fund balance that was budgeted was completely covered by unexpended personnel funds. And that's in addition to having the unemployment charges covered that are booked and recorded here. So I could not be more pleased with the performance. I did share this with Dave just today, so I didn't want to surprise him with this. We had been talking. I think I changed the number on him by 100,000 today from what I had given him yesterday, because I took another look at the tax revenue estimate, and I had missed the prior year receivable that was recorded that had rolled into the 2013 revenue. So we actually had more of the tax levy to book. So, but very, very good close for 2013. I don't want to say a whole lot more about this until you've had a chance to actually see the departments, how they play out. There are some, pluses and minuses, but the bottom line is very good. Just a quick mention on some of the other funds. We are going to have a very good close in our health fund as well. Jerry and I took one last look at the Medicaid cost settlement, which we're pretty comfortable with the estimate that we're going to record there. And I don't want to give the actual number, but we're going to add the fund balance in our health fund as well. Our inspections fund will add over $250,000 to the fund balance from the activity that they had in the permitting and the building trades. So a lot of positive signs out there in terms of our taxable value and what's going on out there in the county. And my favorite fund, our septic treatment facility fund, we're going to add over $250,000 to the fund balance there as well. And they're going to end the year with a cash balance that's well over $400,000.
Wow. Who'd ever believe that? You raised the fees and no one cared.
For years.
I can't believe that they did that, yeah.
I always had faith in it.
Wow.
Yeah, you might want to clarify about the circuit court fund and where that overage came from. It was attorney fees, right?
Yeah, the circuit court fund, and I know that when they do their budget presentation, and, I probably should give the prosecuting attorney a plug, because I think some of the added activity is from the work that the prosecutor's office is doing. And that's not a complaint. That's not a complaint, so. But we did have to increase the general fund appropriation to the circuit court by $50,000 because their attorney costs were higher than anticipated. We increased some other line items, but because of the cost sharing with the other two counties, the net increase for Grand Traverse County was $50,000. So that is something that we have to deal with in our 2014 budget. We're probably a little light in the appropriation to the circuit court for 2014 based on their 2013 performance or activities. So that is one of the things that we'll have to deal with. Is that pretty much covered?
Yeah, the undesignated fund balance may be going up by about $100,000 less than that because we have a couple items that were approved in 2013, like going forward with the appeal on the Carlson versus Jetter. It's going to have to be paid for, and it's kind of a decision that was made in 2013, but we just haven't gotten to that, so we're reserving that money. And what was our other item?
We were committed to do some work on the Frainier
Health.
Road with our health
building.
services building, and we do not have those funds from the construction fund. So Dave and I talked about this, and we do want to make sure we have funds set aside to make sure that we honor that commitment.
That's an obligation we incurred when we signed a building permit with, and the road commission put that obligation on us. So eventually that's going to have to be paid, and we figured we'd reserve the fund balance for that.
I'm very pleased to see that from the projected fund balance at the end of 2013 to where we're actually going to end up is like a $1.4 million increase.
Swing.
That just lends to tell us about what a good job our county does in efficiently using the taxpayers' money. And, we truly do it. Our departments do a fabulous job of managing their money, spending within their means, and, our finance department and everyone else tracks it very closely, and by doing such, it is a benefit to our community.
And I think that the DC plan, changing over from a defined benefit plan to a defined contribution plan years ago, is accelerating the number of turnovers that we have in these departments. And that's why you're seeing this number that used to be about $600,000 a year turn into a much bigger number because there's just a lot more turnover. The sheriff complains about, he never has full staff. And he's talking about maybe actually asking for, kind of an extra body or two to be able to train people, because by the time they get them trained, they got two more, people gone. So And the same thing in 911, they've got the same
Our
problem.
workforce is different, you know. When I first came here, we had defined benefit programs, we had longevity pay that was being paid annually to all of our employees, or banked, and we allowed them to bank it, which was a significant payout at such time as they did leave. And, you know, by eliminating those two items, it's helped our budget. It has not necessarily helped us to retain quality employees.
Well, it's increased their portability. I
But
believe.
I think that's typical everywhere. You know, with the invention of the 401K retirement programs that all of the companies, private and public, are basically offering, anyone can walk at any time and take their retirement with them. Dean, did you have something else you wanted to add?
Well, one other brief comment. I wanted to mention that we had very good activity in our Register of Deeds office, which is just another indication of the activity involving real estate and property transactions. The summary that I'll provide to you tomorrow, actually, because of some auditor, have a difference of interpretation with the auditors, but, you know, it was $169,000 over what we budgeted, and that's been pretty consistent 2 years. I don't know if that'll continue, but there's a lot of property out there that's been, you know, changing hands. And, you know, just there's a lot of things, and I was happy with a comment that Dave made at the meeting earlier today. I think the departments, we all understand what our financial situation is, and they're making decisions right now to manage and to adapt to that. And I think you've seen already, there are, Bonnie, the county clerk, you know, ideas with what we can do going forward, and, you know, the sheriff came in, but Dave hit the nail on the head. I mean, the departments understand that we really have to watch how we're spending our resources and the funds that the board appropriates to us for our daily operations, and we're doing what we can, and we're going to help you with this budget situation, and you're already seeing signs of that. So.
Okay. Herb? Chris? I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. I wanted to let you know that, Dean, I wish I'd had this information this morning. I was up briefly on the radio today, and I said that we were going to add to our fund balance, and I credited our department heads. And I singled out, I wasn't on for very long, obviously. My voice just isn't that melodious right now, but I did single out Bonnie Shealy and Peggy Haynes as examples. You know, Peggy years ago gave up a deputy director. She looked for these books. I don't know what the heck you want to call them, but I mean, she's looking for revenue sources. Bonnie, you know, is combined her offices. Began picture taking for passports, which my husband is going to go down and get done tomorrow for his passport application. But I mean, these are small things, but they add up, and the department heads truly deserve applause. They're doing an outstanding job.
I think it's important to say that it's not just department heads, it's all the employees of our Grand Traverse County that are there. But also, I think it's important to note also that just because we're got this kind of a fund balance that we're putting in, we still have to keep the foot on the pedal, because we're not out of the woods totally yet. So, because we did project 1.7 million coming out of our fund balance this year, and for 2014. So, you know, I encourage all the departments and the employees to continue keeping the vigilance on keeping track of their costs and all that kind of stuff. And I also want to say thanks, because you're the ones that do all the work, and you're the ones that are spending the taxpayer dollars. You're the ones that look at when we look at our goals and what we want to do, we're meeting those goals. We're doing what we said we wanted to do. They've taken it. We have a safer, we have a healthier community, we are doing what we're supposed to do, and that's the important part, and we thank you.
Further comments? Okay, moving along to budget adjustments. Is there anything specific you want to point out, Dan?
No, there are two here for the Commission on Aging. One is to budget the use of the, I'm probably not going to say it right, BASA?
BASA.
BASA.
Okay, thank you. And then the second one is carrying over funds that were budgeted in 2013 that were not used, so that's a carryover. That's why you see the increase in the use of fund balance. And then the final one on page 31 is the reimbursement from MMRMA for the water damage at the Hall of Justice, which was used to cover the related expenditures.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the budget adjustments as presented.
Motion by Inman, supported by Thomas. Further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Lemko?
Yep.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Rennie?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yep.
Inman?
Yes.
Wheeler?
Yes, ma'am.
The next item is the audit engagement letter.
I'm going to have to ask you to put this on hold because you really didn't get the audit engagement letter. I didn't realize that it wasn't included in the packet. You have the cover letter,
Yeah.
but not the, and I apologize for that. You really do need to read what's in that.
You can just bring it to the board meeting, that's fine.
I will, if that's okay, just bring it back next week.
That's fine. Okay. The next item would be the lifting of the hiring freeze. Dave, do you want to start?
Yeah, this is actually a replacement for the hiring freeze, because if you think about what the hiring freeze does, it kind of puts you in a bad spot when someone comes up and says, I really need this position, then you have to lift the hiring freeze. And you kind of have to make exceptions, and if you go through, say you Google hiring freeze, you might find that most of the hits that you get are lifting of hiring freezes to accommodate a necessary position. And a hiring delay really doesn't change what happens, it just changes the intent of what happens. It says, you have to come to the Board of Commissioners to get this posted and filled. And the Board of Commissioners can still say, no, I don't think we want to approve that to be posted and filled. But you're saying you're going to delay it until then. And Sonny made the point that it does accomplish delaying it until we approve it. And then, so it just extends the vacancy for a little bit longer, so there's a little bit more of a savings.
And a freeze is like an absolute
A freeze
no.
is no, and then they come in and say, would you please say yes, after you've already said no, and then you say yes, which is not the right message to send.
Right.
It's really a delay.
Right.
And if you want to stop the process, you can. So
Well-
it doesn't really change what you can do.
Motion to approve the new language to replace the hiring freeze to hiring delay policy.
Support.
Motion by Inman, supported by Lemko. Further discussion. Charlie?
I don't think there's any way we should change this until after we get this budget analysis done. I honestly don't think what you're saying here changes anything from the freeze. It's not a hard freeze. It may sound different. It also comes into, if you look at your new hiring delay policy, more interpretation from the departments as opposed, or the administrator as opposed to the board
Well, it's no
itself.
different. It's just,
So why change
changes
it?
delay,
So why
freeze to
change it?
delay.
Change it. Why change it then? If it's the same thing, why change it?
Freeze is like a no.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
I said,
so-
freeze is a no.
Yeah.
No, we're not going to fill any new positions.
Well, I'll be
Don't
quite
bother.
honest, Mr. Administrator, I'll be honest with you, we did this freeze thing, and I was amazed that you start bringing this stuff in. What part of freeze don't people understand? You know what I mean? Now you want to change the policy. And we're doing this because we have a situation in this county that the public isn't that happy about. And I think a hiring freeze is a very small thing for the Board of Commissioners to have, to keep a handle on this hiring right now until we decide where we're going. All of a sudden, we have a fund balance going up and we're all ready to start hiring people or something? I don't think that's the way to go. I'm sorry. So I don't, and another thing I am a little upset about is all these things that come in here are for immediate. Anytime I look at immediate anymore, I start wondering. I've seen this for the last couple weeks.
Chris?
I won't be supporting the motion either. I agree with Commissioner Rennie that we have a freeze in place. I did not vote to bend the policy for GIS. Because the board did it for GIS, I heard the sheriff's department and said, okay, but I think we had a freeze for a reason, and so I will be joining Commissioner Rennie with his no vote.
Further discussion?
What was the motion?
Motion was, we have a motion to approve the change of the freeze policy.
From a freeze to a delay.
Other comments? I guess the comment that I would make is, you know, when you have a hiring freeze, it means exactly that, it's a hiring freeze. But if you're not going to enforce the hiring freeze, then we shouldn't be calling it a hiring freeze.
Right, that's why.
And we've already identified that we are not prepared to have an absolute freeze. We've already authorized a replacement of an individual who retired in the GIS department. We've authorized the solicitation of application for the sheriff's department. You know, and I believe those are important positions that needed to be filled. So, you know, I'm not sure that the hiring freeze was exactly right in the first place. You know, you can call it a hiring delay policy, that's fine. But if you, either that or you just simply make it that no positions can be advertised without authorization by the county board, you know, and that's going to get you the effective delay that you've got here, you know. But I don't believe that we should have a hiring freeze policy in place unless we're prepared to enforce it. And obviously, we're not prepared to enforce it. So then maybe it should go away. Charlie?
I talked to our administrator about this, and he's got different types of freezes. There's a freeze, there's a hard freeze, all this stuff. The freeze was put in because the Board of Commissioners wanted to control outflow of funds for hiring people. Now, Mr. Administrator, you sent us a recommended budget that showed about, I believe, 8 FTE law enforcement officials to go.
6, yeah.
Okay? I mean, I just really, I don't understand why you'd be pushing for a change in this policy, because it seems to be working as it is. If someone has an issue, they've come in and they've been able to get it approved if the board thought it was, that made sense. But my policy is, you shouldn't be coming here trying to hire people when we're running a budget deficit, period. And like in the private sector, it would be unheard of. Special cases, critical employees, whole different thing. That's why we have the freeze. You come to the board and you can say, this is what the situation is. I don't want them coming to the board asking to hire people, because we always give in. You're absolutely right about that. So I say, when it's a freeze, don't bring it. Now, we had one brought last week, added to the agenda while the meeting was going on for immediate approval, a commissioner not here to vote on it, very contentious and tenuous situation, and this stuff comes on here. I don't even understand how it gets on the agenda, I'll be honest with you.
Larry?
Well, I don't think you can place fault on the administrator. The department had asked to be placed on the agenda to discuss it with the board.
No one's blaming anybody.
Well, I know, but you were pointing at him saying, you know, why are you bringing this stuff to our board? It's the department head requesting their time with the Board of Commissioners to explain their situation.
There's no issue with that. And in the case of GIS, he made a good presentation. He was losing a third of his workforce. Made sense.
Now, I'm just saying that's what occurred at that point, so.
So I don't think the freeze does anything except bring it before the board if it's a critical situation. General hiring, I heard last week we had 2, then it was 4, and then we might have a guy from the jail corrections officer leave. That's up to 5 already. And that was on hearsay. Doesn't make sense.
They were only authorized 2.
I say we vote on it.
You know, I guess my only point is, you know, if you have a hiring freeze, and it is a hiring freeze, if you're not prepared to enforce that, then we shouldn't have the hiring freeze. You know, it's, the speed limit says it's 55 miles an hour, but because I'm in a hurry and I drive faster than that, doesn't mean that it's okay. Just because I'm in a hurry and I'm late for a county board of commissioners meeting, so.
I don't get that analogy at all.
But the fact is that.
I don't know where that came from.
You know, the fact is that there are rules in place, and if you're not going to enforce the rules, then we should get rid of the rules.
Then don't put it on the agenda.
In the place.
How did it get on the agenda last week?
The sheriff asked to be placed on the
The
agenda.
sheriff had
Asked
asked
who?
to get put on the agenda.
The
The chairman of that committee.
Whom?
The
The chairman of that committee.
The chairman of the committee. So
Makes-
I
sets
brought
the
it up,
agenda.
and the board agreed to put it on the agenda.
Okay, I would like to make a recommendation that when you're doing stuff like hiring and stuff, you give people a little more chance to think about it. This was dumped on us last week during the meeting. It was an addition. That is not correct when we're talking about money. This stuff should be discussed, people should have a chance to think about it.
All right, we have a
That's how
motion,
I feel about it.
we have a motion on the floor to approve the recension of the hiring freeze and the instatement of a hiring delay policy as outlined in your packet. Roll call vote, please, Lana.
Max Bauer,
No.
Rennie,
No.
Thomas,
Yes.
Inman,
Yes.
Lemkool,
Yes.
Wheelock.
Yes, motion carries. Okay, that brings us to no unfinished business, no new business, the second opportunity for public comment. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment at this time? Seeing none.
You'll have to line up.
Seeing
Please
none-
note, it's after 7, and when we were earlier, we had a room full.
Yeah, they were here for a specific purpose,
I
which we
know.
already reviewed and took care of. That brings us to the commissioner committee reports. Any reports from commissioners?
Going anywhere.
Notices, announcements? We will not, or yes, we will have a budget meeting
Friday.
on Friday,
Friday.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
Yep.
Oh, goody.
3 to 5. And that takes care of the rest of the months for this week. We'll be back Wednesday of next week, but not Friday of next
Right.
week.
Right.
There is no purpose for a closed session. I'll entertain a motion for
Motion
adjournment.
to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.